Chosen one, what left your life after you met God was not always a loss. Some of it was heaven removing what could not survive your next level. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is going to touch something you have been carrying for a long time, something you never quite had the right words for. Do not scroll, do not skip ahead, because the people who find this kind of message are never here by accident. And before we go any further, if this channel has ever spoken to something real inside of you, subscribe right now and leave a like on this video. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells the algorithm to keep putting this kind of content in front of people who need it. People like you. People who are still standing when they probably should not be. Subscribe, hit that like, and let's walk through this together. Now, before I continue, because what you are about to hear is going to touch something you have been carrying for a long time without a name for it. You survived. But surviving is not the same as living. And you know that. You feel it in the silence. You feel it in that specific weight that sits in your chest when everything around you gets quiet and it is just you and the truth of where you are. You feel it in the space between who you are today and who you know, deep in your spirit you were called to be. There is a material called the total transformation of the chosen, and it exists to close that space. 5 modules, a 30-day plan, 50 declarations, 2 exclusive bonuses. Everything in PDF, delivered to your email in less than 5 minutes. Not to give you more information, but to give you the system that transforms everything you have walked through into the greatest weapon of your mission. Because the ones who walked through fire and are still standing do not need more motivation. They need structure. That material is that structure. I made a few copies available in the first pinned comment below, but move quickly. There are limited spots, and this can come down at any moment. Get yours right now before it closes. Check the first pinned comment now. Let us talk about what really happened to you. You did not lose everything because you did something wrong. I need you to hear that before anything else. Some people are sitting in silence right now, replaying the last few years, going through the list in their mind. The friendships that disappeared, the relationship that fell apart, the job that ended, the money that ran out, the house, the plan, the version of your life you had imagined and worked for and believed in, all of it somehow, quietly or loudly, dismantled. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, there is a question you are almost afraid to ask out loud. Did finding God cost me everything? Chosen one, I need you to sit with this answer. No, what happened to you was not punishment. It was not proof that God forgot you. It was not the consequence of a mistake too big to be forgiven. What happened to you was something far more intentional than any of that. Some things left because they were never meant to come with you. There is a shift that happens when someone genuinely encounters God. Not the Sunday morning version, not the version that fits comfortably inside a routine that asks nothing of you. I mean a real encounter. The kind that changes how you see yourself in the dark. The kind that makes it impossible to go back to who you were before. The kind that rewires something so deep inside of you that people who knew you before notice something is different even before you can explain what changed. When that happens, when that real encounter takes place, the life you built before that moment cannot always hold you anymore. And some of what falls away after that, the friendships, the connections, the doors, the plans, the comfort, was never strong enough to carry the weight of where you are going. Heaven does not remove things to harm you. Heaven removes things because it is preparing a foundation that will not crack under the weight of your promise. Let me be more specific. Because I know that the word loss feels very real when it is not abstract, when it has a face, when it has an address, when it has a name you still think about at night. Let me say the names of what you lost, or at least, let me say what it felt like you lost. The person you thought would be there forever, the one you built a future with in your mind or in your heart, or in real conversations about real plans with real timelines. They are not there anymore. And some days the absence of that person is so present, it feels like a second heartbeat. A wrong rhythm you cannot turn off no matter how busy you keep yourself. The friendships, the circle. The group of people who knew your laugh and knew your story, and were supposed to grow up alongside you into everything you were becoming. Maybe they pulled away slowly. Maybe you changed, and they did not know what to do with who you were turning into. Maybe they chose a version of you that no longer exists, And when that version left, they left with it. And now the silence where their voices used to be can be the loudest thing in a room. The money, the stability, the plan that made sense financially, the savings that disappeared faster than you thought possible, the opportunity that collapsed at the worst possible time, the bill that does not stop, the month that never quite adds up, and with it, the confidence that you would be okay, that you could provide, that you had a floor beneath you that would hold your weight no matter what. The opportunities, the doors that looked like they were built exactly for you, the moment that was almost yours, the yes that became a no with no explanation and no clear path forward, the position, the project, the partnership, the chancing, and then watching it go somewhere else to someone who, honestly, does not carry the understanding of what they were given, the reputation. People saying things about you that are not true. People misreading your silence, misreading your process, misreading the transition you are in the middle of. Being labeled, being left out, watching something you built with care, be dismissed by someone who never understood what it cost you to build it, the peace of mind, the sleep, the ability to close your eyes without the weight of every unresolved thing pressing into you. That version of yourself who could rest without rehearsing every worst-case scenario. You miss that version. You miss the simplicity of not carrying this much weight in your body, in your spirit, in the quiet hours of the morning when the whole world is asleep and you are still awake with your thoughts. The sense of direction, the certainty, the feeling of knowing where you were going and what each step was for, the clarity that used to feel accessible and now feels like something you are reaching for in the middle of a fog that does not lift. And then there is something harder to name. The joy. Not happiness. Joy. The deep kind. The kind that lives underneath the surface of circumstances and does not depend on everything going right. You remember having it, or at least glimpses of it, and somewhere in the middle of the waiting and the losing and the not understanding, it went quiet. And you are not always sure where it went or how to find your way back to it. Chosen one, if you recognized yourself in any of that, if your chest got a little heavier, reading even one of those things, this video is for you. This is not a coincidence. The timing of you finding this is not random. The God who sees every sparrow knows exactly where you are sitting right now, with exactly how much weight you are carrying, and he has something he wants to say to you before this is over. Because here is what I need to tell you about all of those losses. They are not the end of the sentence. They are not the final word on your story. They are not evidence of who you are not or what you cannot have, or how far you have fallen. What happened to you after you met God, the falling away, the falling apart, the falling out, was the beginning of a construction you cannot yet see with your natural eyes. God does not build on deception. He does not build on relationships that would have eventually manipulated you into becoming someone smaller than who he designed you to be. He does not build on foundations made of comparison or performance or the exhausting work of being whoever everyone else needed you to be so that they would stay. When he decided that it was time to take you somewhere real, somewhere fully aligned with the fullness of what he placed inside of you, he first had to clear the land. And clearing land is not gentle work. It is not quiet. It is not comfortable. But what gets built on cleared land is something permanent, something that does not shake in the next storm. Let me say this carefully, because I know how it sounds, and I want you to hear it with all the mercy it is meant to carry. Not every loss in your life was a spiritual attack. Some of what left was the hand of God. Not punishment, protection, not abandonment, preparation. He allowed some things to go because if they had stayed, they would have taken something from you that no blessing could have restored. Better to lose it on the way to your promise than to be buried under it after you arrived. Joel 2:25 says that God will restore the years that the locust has eaten. That is not a poetic metaphor with no practical weight. That is a promise made by a God who keeps an exact record. He saw every year. He saw every opportunity. He saw every door that closed before you could walk through it. He saw every relationship that ended before you were ready. He saw every night you could not sleep, and every morning you woke up, not knowing how to begin again. And he did not see any of it with indifference. He saw all of it with the precision of someone who was already quietly building the restoration. What you lost after meeting God is coming back restored, Not in the same form, not necessarily with the same faces or the same addresses or the same shape it had when it left. But the essence, the peace, the belonging, the provision, the clarity, the joy, the deep sense of being fully known and fully loved, all of it is coming back. And when it comes back through God's hands, it comes with something the original version never carried. It comes with permanence. It comes with protection. It comes already aligned with who you actually are now, not who you were when you first prayed for it. I want to talk now to the person who is tired. Not tired of God, just tired. Tired of the process. Tired of the waiting. Tired of being told that it is almost time when almost never seems to actually arrive. Tired of being the one who holds it together for everyone around them while quietly, privately, barely keeping themselves together. Tired of praying the same prayer for so long that the words begin to feel hollow. Not because you stopped believing, but because belief stretched thin over years of waiting starts to feel like something different than what it used to feel like. That tiredness is not a sign of weak faith. Tiredness is what happens when someone has been strong for a very long time without permission to rest. And strength held without rest becomes exhaustion. And exhaustion is not failure. Exhaustion is the evidence that you have kept fighting long after everything in you wanted to stop. God is not irritated by your tears. He is not disappointed in your questions. He is not standing over you with a scorecard counting how many times you doubted. He is the same God who found Elijah under the juniper tree, completely undone, too tired to go on, asking to die, and instead of correcting him, he sent an angel to feed him, because God knows that a tired body needs rest and food before it needs instruction. He knows you cannot carry revelation on an empty tank. He knows that rest is not surrender. Rest is the strategy of someone who has more road ahead. You are not rushing God. You are not pressuring him. You are a human being carrying something heavy and asking the one who loves you to lighten the weight. That is not a failure of faith. That is faith. That is the prayer of someone who still believes that God is the one who holds the answer, even when the answer has not arrived yet. Romans 8:28 does not say that everything that happens to you will feel good. It says that all things, all of them, including the painful ones, including the ones you cannot make sense of, including the ones that broke something open inside of you that has not fully healed, work together for good. For those who love God and are called according to his purpose, and you are called. That is not a question. It has never been a question. Now I want to talk about what was stolen, because not everything that left was God's hand releasing it. Some of what happened to you was an attack. And I want to be careful here, because I do not want to give the enemy more attention than he deserves. He is not the center of this story. He never was. But I also will not pretend that you have not felt it, the specific weight of something that was not just lost, but taken. The opportunity that someone else sabotaged, the door that closed because of something someone said about you that was not true, the blessing that arrived but never stayed, because something kept pulling it away before it could take root in your life. You have felt the envy of people who smiled at your face, while privately hoping you would not rise too high. You have felt the confusion of watching someone you trusted with something vulnerable use it against you. You have felt the particular loneliness of being in a room full of people and knowing, deeply knowing, that not one of them truly understood the assignment that God put in your hands. You have felt what it is like to be too much for some rooms and not enough for others, and to spend too many years trying to figure out which version of yourself was the right one to bring. And maybe you have watched things that belonged to you by promise go to people who did not carry them with care, watched someone else receive what you prayed for, watched a door open for someone else that felt like it was built with your name on it, and you did not say it out loud. Because you know the theology, you know you are supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice, and you do, you genuinely do. But there is also this quiet ache underneath that asks, when is it my turn? When does what is mine actually come to me? Chosen one, God saw every single one of those moments. And here is what I need you to understand about the justice of God. It does not forget. It does not lose track. It does not get confused by time or distracted by noise or fooled by appearances. Every blessing that was delayed, every door that was blocked, every season that was extended beyond what you could understand, heaven has a record. And when God moves in restoration, He does not just give back what was taken. He moves with interest. He moves with the full weight of everything that was owed, not because you earned it by your pain, but because His character does not allow what belongs to His covenant people to be permanently stolen. Isaiah 61:7 says that instead of shame, you will receive a double portion. Instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. This was not written for the comfortable. This was written for the ones who have been through it, the ones who know what shame feels like in the body, the ones who know what disgrace does to a name. And God looked at that person, says at you, Laos, and said, double. Not equal, not replacement, double. What was taken from you is not returning in the same form. It is returning purified, protected, and multiplied with purpose. And this time, when it comes back, it comes with a seal. It comes with a covering. It comes in a season where you have developed the discernment to know what is real and what is counterfeit, where you have the maturity to protect what God places in your hands, where the version of you receiving the blessing is not the same version who lost it the first time, and that difference is everything. Because God is not just restoring what you lost, He is restoring who you became while surviving it. Now I want to stop here, right here in the middle of this message, because if you are still watching, you are one of the ones this was made for. And I want to remind you about what I mentioned at the beginning. The total transformation of the chosen. 5 modules, a 30-day plan. 50 declarations, 2 exclusive bonuses, in PDF in your email in less than 5 minutes. This is not more information. This is not another motivational PDF that sits in your downloads folder unopened. This is the structure that takes everything you walked through. Every loss, every season of waiting, every night you survived something you should not have had to survive, and turns it into a weapon, into clarity, into direction, into the system that moves you from surviving to actually living the assignment you were built for. The link is in the first pinned comment below. A few spots left. Go get yours right now before it closes. And leave a comment right now. Just type I receive restoration, because declaring it matters. Your words carry weight. Let this be a moment where you speak it out loud in whatever way you can. And if this message is speaking to something in you, hit that like button. It tells me to keep making this kind of content, and it tells the platform to put it in front of the next person who is sitting somewhere, carrying what you are carrying, needing to hear exactly what you are hearing right now. Now, let us talk about what restoration actually looks like. Because I think some people have a version of it in their minds that looks like God pressing rewind, like everything going back to the way it was, the same relationships, the same opportunities, the same version of the life they had before all of it fell apart, just repaired. Like a broken object glued back together at the cracks. That is not what God does. God does not restore by pressing rewind. He restores by rebuilding with better materials. He looks at what was, and He looks at who you are now, and He builds something that fits the person you have become, not the person you were when you first started praying. Some of the people who left are not coming back. Not because God could not bring them, but because who you are now needs something they were never designed to give. The version of you that is coming out of this season is not going to fit inside of the spaces that held the version of you that went in. New wine cannot be put in old wineskins. That is not abandonment. That is design. Some of the doors that closed are not going to reopen, and sitting at those doors, knocking with the same energy, waiting for a yes that was never meant to come from that direction, that is not faith. That is familiarity. And familiarity can sometimes become a prison disguised as loyalty. God is not asking you to keep knocking on doors. He closed with His own hands. He is asking you to turn around, because there is a door behind you that is already open. A door that is so specifically shaped for who you are now that it does not require you to shrink, to perform, to explain yourself, to fight for a seat at the table. It is a door that was made with your name already on it. But here is what happens when God leads you to that new door. It does not always look the way you expected. It does not always come with the fanfare or the recognition or the applause. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks small. Sometimes it looks like a beginning when you expected a peak. And the ones who miss their restoration are sometimes the ones who were so committed to the image of what they thought it would look like that they walked past the real thing because it did not match the picture they had been holding. Let your expectations be led by the Spirit, not by the blueprint of what you imagined before you understood what God was building. Now I want to speak to something specific. I want to speak to the parents, the mothers who lie awake praying for their children, the fathers who carry a weight that they cannot always put into words, the fear that the things they walk through might somehow follow their children, that the brokenness in the line might pass forward into the next generation. The ones who pray not just for themselves, but for the little lives that are connected to theirs, for the teenagers who are drifting, for the adult children who are far, for the family members who have not yet found their way to the God who has already found them. The restoration that God is moving in your life is not stopping at your door. It is moving through your bloodline. It is going into the rooms where your children sleep. It is speaking into the future that your grandchildren will walk into. What you have prayed over, what you have cried over, what you have refused to give up on even when every outward sign suggested there was nothing left to hold. God heard every one of those prayers, every single one, and they are stored. They are active. They are working in dimensions you cannot see from where you are standing. Job 42:10 says that God restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends, when he turned his pain outward and chose intercession over bitterness. And maybe that is something you are already doing. Maybe you are already the one interceding for your household while your household does not yet know they need it. Maybe you are already carrying a prayer that is quietly, invisibly, doing something no eye can trace yet. Do not stop. What you are praying for your family is not going unanswered. It is going into a process that moves through time in ways that are not always visible at first but are always real. And chosen one, I want to speak about peace, because I believe the deepest thing this season is supposed to restore in you is not money first. It is not status first. It is not the relationship or the opportunity or the house. The deepest thing God wants to give back to you is peace, not the absence of problems. Peace, the kind that Paul wrote about from a prison cell, the kind that surpasses understanding, the kind that holds steady when the circumstances do not hold steady, the kind that lets you sleep even when the situation is unresolved, the kind that lets you stop chasing what left, stop auditioning for rooms that already rejected you, stop performing for approval that was never going to be given anyway. Peace that lets you walk into a room knowing exactly who you are without needing anyone in that room to confirm it for you. Peace that lets you make decisions without the paralysis of fear. That lets you say no to things that do not align without the guilt of disappointing people who were never truly invested in your well-being. That lets you let someone go without spending months rehearsing every conversation, wondering what you could have done differently, carrying a grief that was not yours to carry. Peace that lets you trust the timing of God without needing to control every variable. That lets you be fully present in the season you are in without constantly living in the anxiety of the season you are not yet in. That peace is coming, and in some ways it is already here, right now, in this moment. In the strange and specific fact that you found this video today, in this hour, when something in you needed to hear exactly this. That is not coincidence. That is the peace of God beginning to reach ahead of the circumstances and show you that you are covered before the evidence arrives. I want to give you something now. Not a list, not a formula. Just 5 things that I believe the Spirit is saying to the chosen ones who are in this particular season. Let these land where they need to land. First, stop calling loss what God called livelihood. Some of what you are grieving was weight that was keeping you low. The relationship that did not work was not your future. It was your education. The job that ended was not your identity. It was a season. The city you had to leave was not your destiny. It was a chapter. Not everything that ends was supposed to last. And mourning what was always temporary keeps you from fully entering what is actually permanent. Second, do not return to environments that broke your peace just because they feel familiar. Familiarity is not the same as belonging. You can know a place deeply and still not belong there anymore. You can love people genuinely and still understand that returning to that dynamic would require you to become smaller than who you are now. Familiar is not always safe. And the peace of God in your body is a compass. If walking back into something makes your spirit contract, that contraction is information. Third, pray for discernment before you accept open doors. Not every open door is from God. Some open doors are tests. Some are traps set by people who know your hunger and are willing to use it. Some are old versions of things you already outgrew, dressed up in new packaging. Ask the Spirit to show you not just whether a door is open, but whether it is right, whether it carries peace, whether it aligns with the person you are becoming, and not just the person you used to be. Fourth, write what God is putting in your heart. I do not mean journal casually. I mean write with the understanding that what God is speaking into your spirit right now is instruction. It is direction. It is the architecture of the next chapter. Do not let it stay in the air as a feeling. Put it on paper. Give it weight. Give it a date. Give it specificity, because what gets written gets remembered, and what gets remembered gets pursued. And what gets pursued with the authority of someone who knows where their assignment came from cannot be stopped by anything that tried to stop them before. Fifth, prepare to receive without carrying the identity of the wounded. This might be the hardest one, because some of us have been in the season of lack and loss for so long that our whole internal story is built around it. We know how to survive it. We know the language of it. We know how to be the person who is waiting, the person who is praying, the person who is almost there. And when the restoration actually begins to move, there is a work that has to happen inside, a releasing of the wounded identity, a willingness to step into the fullness of what is coming without the armor you built to protect yourself in the wilderness. Because the armor that protected you in the wilderness will be too heavy to wear in the promised land. You do not need to carry it anymore. Chosen one, hear me now. Heaven is not ignoring you. Heaven has been gathering the fragments, every piece of the life that's scattered. Every dream that fell apart before it could become what it was supposed to be. Every prayer that felt like it evaporated into silence. Every night you held it together when everything in you was coming undone. Every moment of dignity that was taken from you, and every piece of confidence that was shaken loose by someone who did not have the right to shake it. Heaven has been collecting all of it. Heaven has been watching over it. Heaven has been preparing the moment when it all comes back, not in pieces, not scattered the way it left, but whole, assembled, consecrated, protected by a hand that does not drop what it decides to carry. God is rebuilding your altar, the one that was broken by the weight of what you walked through. He is placing the stones back, one by one, in exactly the right order, in exactly the right position, and when the fire falls on that altar, and it will fall, nothing around it will be able to deny that God is the one who built it. Your dignity is being returned to you, not the borrowed dignity of other people's approval, your actual dignity, the kind that was written into you before you were born, the kind that does not depend on how many people clapped, or how many doors opened, or whether the plan worked out. The dignity of someone who was chosen before they chose, the dignity of someone whose name was written in a book that no human hand can edit. The wounds are closing, not all at once, not in a single dramatic moment that removes all evidence of what you walked through, but closing, healing in layers, the way deep wounds always heal, from the inside out, slowly and then all at once. And the scars that remain will not be evidence of what broke you. They will be evidence of what could not kill you. They will be the proof that you went through it and came out on the other side still standing, still believing, still here. New doors are opening, clean doors, doors that do not require you to compromise who you are to walk through them, doors that were built for the version of you that came out of the fire, not the version that went in, doors with peace on the other side, with people who recognize what God placed in you and honor it without needing to own it, with opportunities that fit the fullness of your assignment and not just a fraction of it. And chosen one, this is your moment. Not a moment in the future. This moment, the one you are in right now, hearing this, with everything still unresolved and everything still in process and everything still becoming, this is your moment to say, out loud or in the quiet of your spirit, that you believe it, that you receive it, that you are not waiting for the evidence before you decide that God is faithful, that His faithfulness is the foundation, and the blessing is the fruit, and the fruit is coming. Go to the first pinned comment right now. The total transformation of the chosen is there. The system that was built for people exactly like you, the ones who survived the fire and are ready to finally walk into the fullness of what the fire was preparing them for. 5 modules, 30 days, 50 declarations, 2 bonuses, PDF in your email, right now, limited spots, do not wait. Type "I receive restoration" in the comments, not because it is a ritual, because your words have weight and this is a declaration worth making. And if this message touched something real in you, like this video, share it with someone who needs it. Because somewhere right now someone else is sitting with the same weight you carried when you pressed play, and they need to hear that what they lost after meeting God is not the end of their story. It is coming back, all of it, restored, protected, multiplied, with purpose. And when it arrives, and it will arrive, remember this moment. Remember that you heard it before you saw it. Remember that you believed before the evidence came, because that is what chosen ones do. They see the promise before the proof, and they hold on. And they come out on the other side with a testimony that cannot be explained by anything other than the faithfulness of God. Now watch the video that is appearing on your screen right now, because what you just heard is only the beginning of what God wants to show you in this season. What you lost is coming back, restored,